Hello, everybody. This time we're going to take a look at a PEMDAS problem. This is order of operations, and it includes absolute value. So absolute value, if you don't know, you should review that first or learn a little bit about it. You can go to Khan Academy and just search for absolute value. Basically, absolute value is the distance of a number from zero. So whether it's positive or negative, it's that distance. And absolute value is always positive, okay? Has a great attitude. But take a look at that, and we'll go ahead and work this in just a second. So to go over the tabs, this overview tab has a link to Khan Academy with a related problem, and then several other links to Khan. This one is to the GED formula sheet, and then language help at Khan Academy. So these are all places where you can learn a little bit more about these problems. And if you really get stuck, you can try looking for help in your language at Khan. I've got some worksheets here that you can use, or I will have. I guess they're not in here yet. GED formula sheet. Maybe there's something wrong with the tabs on this one. Anyway, I'll fill that out later, so it'll be there by the time you see this video. And let's go ahead and take a look at this. So when I do PEMDAS problems, just by way of, you're going to PEMDAS, right? So P, E, M or D, A or S. So the P stands for parentheses. And whatever is similar to a parenthesis, right? So that includes absolute value brackets. These are considered parentheses as far as PEMDAS goes. These are normal parentheses, but then we also have, let's go to this. Let's go to parentheses includes curly brackets like this, square brackets, regular parentheses, absolute value brackets, and also the line in a fraction. So you've got the numerator and the denominator. That line that separates the numerator from the denominator, that is like, it functions like a parenthesis. It keeps the two separate. So there are some times when you will just, normally you want to do all of the numerator first and then all of the denominator. A couple of exceptions, but we'll talk about those later. And you work in this order. So what we want to do is count each. We're going to go through this list. Parentheses, exponents, which we don't have yet. Oops. My pen's run out of ink. Okay, exponents. And exponents includes those superscripted numbers like square, x squared. This little 2 is an exponent. But then also the root. So square root of x, that's included in exponents. And then any other powers. Any number that's raised to a power goes after parentheses. So parentheses is like a physical isolation of the operation you are supposed to do. Then we have multiplication or division. And these are on the same level because multiplication and division are inverses of each other. Division is like the inverse of multiplication. So it's basically multiplication done with a reciprocal. And so you can consider them the same operation, just variations. And then addition and subtraction, same thing. We'll talk more about addition and subtraction. Those are not absolute operations. It's more like you're combining. And so subtraction is the inverse of addition. It's like combining a negative number with a positive, or combining two negative numbers. That can be considered subtraction, the addition of a negative number. And we'll talk about that more, but you will need to know some of those concepts in order to do well on this problem. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to number these. When we do PEMDAS, or order of operations, we are ordering the operations here. So we've got a couple of unwritten. These are implicit operations, right? So I'm going to write those in. We've got a multiplication that's implied here because of the 5 actually a negative 5. We're going to look at this as a negative 5 instead of saying 9 minus 5. We're going to keep the operation with that number, and it will function as a sign. And then we have another implied multiplication operation here, where we have negative 2 times this. So what we're looking for right now is parentheses, right? So we're going to come along here. Dun, 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 dun. Here's the first one. So we know there's a parenthesis here, so we're going to just make a little note, and that has to lead to another, which is down here. So there's 1, but as soon as we find 1, we go through, are there exponents inside those parentheses? Is there multiplication or division? Is there addition or subtraction? So we find there's no exponents. So, but we're going to see if there might be other parentheses, right? So we are looping here, doing this algorithm, just looping through. Each time you find one, you start it over. So we're going to look now for other parentheses, and lo and behold, we find another. And these are called nested parentheses for the sake of argument. Of course, it's just parentheses within the absolute value brackets, but this operation goes first. Even though lowly subtraction and addition are at the bottom of the hierarchy, the parentheses elevate them. So we have to do this first. So I'm going to put a number up on top. This is number 1. And then we're going to count out from there. So let's go out to the next. We'll go up 1 level from these parentheses to the next parentheses. And what we are looking for is exponents, but there are none. So then multiplication or division, and here we have some multiplication. This is going to be what we do second. So this looks already counterintuitive because normally we go from left to right, but here our first one is all the way over to the right. So multiplication comes before addition or subtraction, so we're going to do this multiplication operation first, and then this one will come third, right? Then we're going to be outside the parentheses, and we've got 2 operations, subtraction and multiplication. So that's easy. Multiplication goes ahead of subtraction. So this is number 4, and then number 5 is that subtraction. So this goes completely counterintuitively, right? So if you don't know the rules, if you don't apply the rules correctly, then you will end up doing this and get a completely different answer. So let's go ahead and work this and see how we do. Let's see, I gotta make some room, clean up a little bit. All right, let's take a look at this. We're gonna work this. So first we're gonna say 3 minus 8. So if you've been working on integer math, 3 minus 8 you can do on a number line. I like to think of this as positive 3 and negative 8. Positive 3 and negative 8. So when the signs of 2 numbers are different and they're being combined, right? So this is not multiplication, but this is combining a positive and a negative number. When the signs are different, which we have a positive 3 and a negative 8, we're going to think of that as a negative 8. Then you take the difference between them, which means basically a subtraction problem. So what's the difference between 3 and 8? So it's 5, right? So 5 is the difference between them. And if you can keep the sign of the larger number with your answer. So we have negative 8, which is bigger. The 8 has a larger absolute value than the 3. So it's larger in terms of absolute value. So this is the sign that will remain. And if you need to work on that a little bit to get it to where you're really comfortable with it, please review integer math, adding and subtracting with integers. Integers are positive or negative numbers, whole numbers, right? So they include 0. So you've got positive and negative and 0. So work on your integer math if that's not apparent that this is negative 5, okay? So then we bring down the rest of the problem, and I'm going to keep this 5 in parentheses here just because, and I'm going to write this out. I'm going to bring everything down. 51. All right, so now we've done our first operation, and our second one is going to be this multiplication, which is 5. And I want you to look at this 5, start doing this. Attach that sign in your head to the number. So we have -5 times -5. Now, we are up a level on PEMDAS here. We have gone from addition or subtraction to multiplication or division. The rules are slightly different when we multiply or divide numbers. In this case, we have 2 negative numbers, and a negative times a negative always gives you a positive. So 5 times 5 is 25, and the sign is positive. And then we're going to bring down the rest of the numbers, the rest of the equation. I'm going to put in this multiplication here. Just normally multiplication is assumed, but I'm just going to put it in there so we are sure to remember it. And you might consider putting that in when you're doing your tests, because it's better to get the correct answer, and this adds a little extra step, but it can mean the difference between passing and failing. So please do everything you can to assure your success. All right, so now we've done 2 operations, and this is called a 5-step PEMDAS problem, incidentally. You've got 5 operations, which means any of these things where you're combining or multiplying numbers together, or dividing or subtracting. And we're going to continue. So we start at the beginning always, parentheses. So we're looking here, we have them, and we're going to do this operation inside the parentheses. So 9 plus 24. Let's change colors again. Let's pick a fun one. Let's go with orange. 9 plus 25 is 34. And actually, I'm just thinking right now that absolute value is not always considered an operation, but it kind of is an operation in its own right. And the operation here is taking this value outside of the absolute value brackets. And when that happens, this number, no matter what it is, it comes out positive. So on the line below, we're going to write positive 34, and we're going to get rid of those brackets. And we're going to have then 51, and we have a -2. Remember, we're looking at this as and we're going to multiply this by positive 34. Okay, so when this comes out, it's positive, and you don't have to write this plus, but it might help you at first to show all the steps. And then we have a -2 here, and we're going to multiply by 34. And so this is kind of the opposite of what we had before. We had 2 negatives multiplied together, which yield a positive in multiplication. So the rules change as you go up the PEMDAS pyramid. Multiplication and division, when you have a negative times a positive, you're going to have a negative answer. So we have -2 times positive 34, and that's going to give us a negative answer. And 2 times 34 is 68. And then we have 51. So this will be our last operation, 51 minus 68. So this is similar to the earlier problem where we had just write in the positive. If you sign your numbers and then think of it as combining positive 51 with negative 68, the signs of the two numbers are different. We're going to take the difference between the two. And when I say difference, that should suggest subtraction. So we're going to subtract one from the other. And if you've done absolute value, you know that it doesn't matter which one you subtract from which. The absolute value will be the same. So 8 minus 1 is 7. 6 minus 5 is 1. So we get 17. And the number with the larger absolute value has a negative sign. So our answer will also have a negative sign. So 51 minus 68 is equal to negative 17. Let's put a big circle around that answer. And that's what would go in our box up here, negative 17. So that's how you would work this, and I really would like to see each step written out like this. And please try writing out each step and see if you don't get better answers, more accurate answers, more correct answers. And you can work similar problems at WAMAP to see if you do, or you can use the handy dandy more practice sheet as soon as I put it in there to practice these. So good luck, and if you get stuck, let me know, and you can message your instructor from inside WAMAP. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, go give it a try.